I used to believe that when someone hurt you badly enough, you had to hurt them back, not because you were cruel, because you wanted them to understand what they had done. That was exactly how I felt when I found out what my sister had done to me. My name is Claire, and for most of my life, my older sister Megan was the person I trusted most. We grew up in Ohio, and even though we became very different as adults, I always believed we had each other's backs. I was the quiet one. Megan was confident, outspoken, and naturally good at getting attention. When I got married, she was my maid of honor. When I had my first child, she was one of the first people I called. And when I decided, after years of working in administration, to start my own bookkeeping business, she was the first person I told. I remember sitting at her kitchen table one Saturday morning, showing her the business plan on my laptop. I was nervous. I had spent months saving money and building a list of potential clients. One opportunity mattered more than all the others. A local construction company was looking for someone to handle its bookkeeping and payroll. If I got that contract, I could leave my exhausting office job and finally work for myself. Megan smiled when I told her, "I'm proud of you," she said. I believed her. A few weeks later, the company called me for an interview. I was thrilled. Then, 2 days before the interview, they canceled. They told me they had decided to go in another direction. I was disappointed, but I accepted it. Then something strange happened. A former coworker called me. She asked if I was okay. I said I was. Then she said, "Claire, I thought you knew." Megan told them you weren't reliable. I couldn't speak. My sister had recommended someone else for the contract. Someone she knew. I didn't believe it at first. I called Megan. She answered casually. When I asked her about it, there was a long silence. Then she said I was just being honest with them. Honest about what? She sighed. I told them you were overwhelmed with your marriage and kids. I didn't think you could handle a business that big. I felt something inside me go completely still. She hadn't made a mistake. She had made a decision for me. She had taken an opportunity I had worked for and quietly convinced someone else that I wasn't capable of it. I didn't yell. I didn't insult her. I simply said, "You should have talked to me." She replied, "You wouldn't have listened." That sentence stayed with me, not because it was true, because it told me she didn't think she owed me honesty. That evening, I told my husband what happened. He was angry for me. "Tell everyone what she did," he said. "Let people know exactly who she is." And honestly, I wanted to. I wanted to post everything online. I wanted to send screenshots to relatives. I wanted to call the construction company and explain that my sister had sabotaged me. I wanted Megan to feel embarrassed. I wanted her to lose the respect she had spent years collecting from our family. For one night, revenge felt like justice. But the next morning, I looked at my daughter eating cereal at the kitchen table, and I realized something. If I spent the next 6 months trying to destroy my sister's reputation, I would still be living inside the story she had created for me. I didn't want that. I wanted my own story. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to fight Megan. I was going to stop depending on her. And 3 days later, I received an email that changed everything. It was from the owner of another company. He wanted to meet me, and somehow he already knew exactly what Megan had said about me. My first reaction was panic. I thought Megan had contacted him too. I almost didn't answer the email, but I did. The owner explained that someone had mentioned my name to him, along with concerns about my ability to manage a demanding workload. He said he had heard both sides. Then he added something I wasn't expecting. I decided I would rather meet you myself. I sat at my desk, staring at those words. For months, I had been waiting for someone to give me a chance. Now I had one. I went to the interview. I didn't mention Megan. I didn't complain about the construction company. I didn't spend 20 minutes explaining why my sister was wrong. I simply talked about my experience, my plans, and the systems I had created to manage clients efficiently. 2 weeks later, I got the contract. It wasn't as large as the original opportunity, but it was mine, and it became the beginning of something much bigger. Within a year, I had 6 clients, then 9. I left my office job. I hired a part-time assistant. For the first time in my life, I wasn't asking whether I was capable. I knew I was. Megan noticed the change. At family gatherings, she started making small comments. "I'm glad things worked out for you," or "I guess you proved everyone wrong." I could hear the irritation underneath her words, but I stopped responding to it. One afternoon, she called me. She said she wanted to apologize. I listened. She told me she had been jealous. She said she felt like everyone was celebrating my success while she was struggling with her own life. Then she said something that surprised me. "I thought if your business failed, you would come back to needing me." That hurt more than anything else, because suddenly I understood. This wasn't really about a business contract, it was about control. My sister had been comfortable when I needed her. My independence made her uncomfortable. I could have used that confession against her. I could have told our entire family. Instead, I said, "I accept your apology, but things can't go back to the way they were." She asked what that meant. "It means I can love you without trusting you with everything." There was silence. Then she started crying, and for a moment I felt guilty. But I reminded myself that having boundaries doesn't mean you hate someone. It means you finally understand what access to your life should cost. Over the next few months, our relationship changed. We were still sisters. We still attended family birthdays. We could still talk. But I stopped telling Megan about every business opportunity. I stopped asking for her approval. I stopped explaining my decisions. And strangely, that was when I finally felt free. A year later, the construction company that had rejected me contacted me again. Their bookkeeper had left unexpectedly. They asked if I would consider taking over the account. I smiled when I read the email. The same opportunity that once represented rejection now represented a choice. I didn't need their approval anymore. I accepted the contract, but only after negotiating terms that protected my time and my business. I never told Megan. She found out from our mother. That evening, she called. "I heard you got that account." "I did. I'm happy for you. Thank you." Then she said, "You know, I was wrong about you." I looked around my office. My name was printed on the glass door. My assistant was working in the next room. There were invoices on my desk from clients who trusted me. A life I had built without revenge, without exposing anyone, without becoming bitter. And I realized something. The best comeback wasn't making Megan regret what she had done. It was becoming someone who no longer needed her to understand. I didn't need an apology big enough to erase the past. I didn't need my family to choose sides. I didn't need her to feel guilty every time she saw me succeed. I just needed to keep my dignity. Because sometimes we think self-respect means proving someone wrong. It doesn't. Sometimes self-respect means refusing to become the person their betrayal is trying to turn you into. I could have spent years carrying anger. Instead, I carried my business forward. I carried my children forward. I carried myself forward. And that was my quiet revenge. Not watching my sister fall. Watching myself rise without needing her to fall. If this story touched you, please comment and subscribe. I have one question for you. Would you forgive someone but still keep your distance? Let me know your answer below.